You did it. You hit the number. The one you spent years working toward. The one that was supposed to change everything. Six figures, $100,000 a year or more. The salary that your parents would have considered genuinely wealthy. The number that meant you'd made it. And yet here you are, checking your account before grocery runs, saying no to things you should comfortably be able to say yes to, lying awake doing math that shouldn't be this tight, not broke, not struggling in any way you can point to clearly, just permanently, inexplicably, almost embarrassingly stretched. And the worst part isn't the money, the worst part is the confusion. Because you did everything right. You got the degree, you built the career, you hit the number. So, why does it feel like this? My name is Dave, and I love helping people understand why the financial milestones we're handed as a culture keep moving the moment people reach them. Today, we're going to explain exactly why six figures feels like poverty in 2026. Not with excuses, with math. Because the answer isn't that you're bad with money. The answer is that the number itself got quietly hollowed out while nobody was watching. Let's start with the most uncomfortable truth in this entire conversation. $100,000 in 2026 is not $100,000. In 1990, the median household income was around $30,000. Six figures was more than three times that. It was genuinely exceptional. It put you in rarefied territory. The gap between you and average was wide enough to feel real. Today, the median household income is around $80,000. A single six-figure earner isn't three times the median anymore. They're barely above it. The psychological landmark didn't move. The economic reality around it did. But that's just the beginning of what happened to the number. Let's talk about what the government actually takes before you see a dollar of it. A $100,000 salary does not produce $100,000 of spendable income. Federal income tax at that level runs roughly 22% on the margin. Add Social Security and Medicare at 7.65%. Add state income tax, which in California runs as high as 9.3%, and in New York City over 12%. A six-figure earner in a high-tax state is realistically taking home somewhere between $62,000 and $68,000 a year. Call it $5,500 a month. That's the number you actually have to work with. Not 100,000. 60-something thousand. And everything that's about to happen to it happens to that number, not the one on your offer letter. Now let's talk about housing because this is where the six-figure dream runs directly into a wall. The standard rule is that housing shouldn't exceed 28% of your gross income. At $100,000, that's $2,333 a month. Sounds workable. Except the median rent in America's major metros, the places where six-figure jobs actually exist in meaningful numbers, is not $2,333. In Austin, it's over $1,800 for a one-bedroom. In Denver, Seattle, Boston, Washington, D.C., the numbers climb well past $2,500 for anything you'd actually want to live in. In New York, San Francisco, or Los Angeles, $3,000 gets you something most people would charitably call modest. So before you've bought a single meal or made a single car payment, housing alone is pushing or exceeding the entire budget allocation a six-figure salary is supposed to support. And if you bought instead of rented, the situation is the same or worse. The income required to comfortably afford the median home in America right now is around $106,000, which means a $100,000 salary doesn't quite qualify you for average home ownership under standard affordability rules. You earned the number that was supposed to mean comfort. And the market looked at that number and said almost. Here's what the rest of the budget actually looks like for a single six-figure earner in a mid to high-cost city. Take-home pay, roughly $5,500 a month. Rent or mortgage, $2,200 on the conservative end. More in most cities where these jobs exist. That leaves $3,300. Car payment, if you financed anything reasonable in the last 3 years. $500, insurance, $180. Student loans because the degree that got you the job came with a bill. $400 on a modest balance. Health insurance premium. Your employer covers some of it. You cover the rest. $250. Groceries for one person eating like an adult. $400. Utilities, phone, internet. $250. That's $1,980 gone. You have $1,320 left for everything else. Retirement savings that need to be at least 10 to 15% of gross to keep you from working until you're 75. Clothing, medical copays, car maintenance, any concept of social life. Emergency fund contributions. The occasional trip that reminds you why you're working this hard in the first place. The math doesn't lie. A six-figure salary in 2026 in most American cities produces a life that feels somewhere between tight and genuinely constrained. Not poverty, but not the breathing room the number was supposed to deliver either. Now let's talk about the thing nobody brings up when they hand you the offer letter. Lifestyle inflation. The moment you start earning six figures, the world around you adjusts its expectations. Your colleagues are doing things at a certain price point. Your social circle shifts. The restaurants you're expected to attend, the vacations that seem normal in your peer group, the apartment that matches your professional image. None of these are extravagant individually. Collectively, they represent a quiet and relentless upward pressure on your spending that arrives exactly when your income does. This is not weakness. This is how human beings work. We calibrate normal to the environment around us, and the environment around a six-figure earner in 2026 has a very expensive definition of normal. The result is that a lot of people who cross the six-figure line increase their spending faster than they increase their income. The raise gets absorbed before it ever has a chance to build anything, and they end up feeling roughly as stretched as they did before, just at a higher number. There's also something happening at six figures that doesn't get talked about enough. The tax system starts working against you in ways it didn't before. Certain deductions phase out. Certain credits disappear. The AMT, Alternative Minimum Tax, which is just a fancy government mechanism designed to make sure you can't write off your standard professional expenses anymore, starts becoming relevant for some earners. You're now in a bracket where every additional dollar of income is taxed at a higher marginal rate than it was before. The financial complexity of your situation increases at exactly the moment you'd expect things to get simpler. Meanwhile, the genuinely wealthy, people with assets generating passive income, have access to tax structures you don't. Long-term capital gains rates, depreciation deductions, strategies that require owning things rather than earning wages. A six-figure W-2 earner is in many ways one of the most heavily taxed categories in the American system. You earn too much to qualify for low-income benefits, and you don't earn enough to access the strategies that the truly wealthy use to reduce their tax burden. You are directly in the most exposed lane of the tax system. So what actually changes this? Not the salary. You've seen what happens to the salary. What changes it is the gap between what you earn and what survival requires. That gap is where wealth lives. And for most six-figure earners right now, that gap is uncomfortably small. Not because they're irresponsible, because the cost of a normal life has expanded to fill almost exactly what a six-figure salary produces. The move is not to earn more and hope the feeling changes. It's to aggressively protect the gap. Housing below what you qualify for. Car below what you could afford. Subscriptions and lifestyle costs interrogated ruthlessly. Retirement contributions automated before the money has a chance to become available. Because here's what nobody told you when they gave you the goal of six figures. The number was never the destination. The gap was. And the gap requires just as much intention at 100,000 as it did at 50. The six-figure salary didn't fail you. The story you were told about what it meant did. It was never going to feel like wealth on its own, not in 2026. Not in the cities where those jobs exist. Not after taxes and housing and student loans and the quiet inflation of a professional lifestyle. What it can be is a foundation, a number large enough to build something real from if you treat the gap between income and expenses as the asset it actually is. The feeling of poverty at six figures isn't a personal failure. It's the predictable output of a system that sold you a milestone and forgot to mention that the finish line had moved about 30 years ago. You're not doing it wrong. The map was just drawn for a different country.